Kennedy Onyango, police turned guns on unarmed youth, demanding justice, dignity, and a future. Over 60 confirmed dead, hundreds injured, dozens disappeared, and still not a single officer held to account. A year later, promises remain hollow, grief festers, and the Gen Z movement stands as a defiant indictment of a regime that met courage with bullets and silence with lies. We'll say their names: Denzel Omondi, Chris Muravi, Sami Maina, Eric Shieni, Evans Karobi, Shaquille Obienge, Kennedy Wakini, Austin Makoha, Erickson Mutisia, Ibrahim Kamau, Rex Masai, and it goes on and on. We will continue to say their names. From the flag waving to medics on duty, martyrs of historic protests, we're likely to see them again. A year of silence for kin missing their loved ones. This is what we're talking about 1 year on. Police maimed and killed Gen Z protesters calling out the ruling elite. This we saw. A member of parliament put to task as others issue more threats. Ruto says he's proud of the police conduct and vows to stand by them. Just thought I'd tell you that. So let's now look into some of these stories that are making the headlines. Lydia, I think we'll just go ahead. How police were caught napping by Gen Z protesters in Parliament, and it goes on and on. Delayed justice, insensitive state adds more pain to grieving parents. Wow. Those are the headlines, and they're making their way well into the middle pages of the paper this morning. Do you have the digitals, Dennis?
I'm trying to get them, and in the meantime, the internet today is doing that thing, eh?
I have the Daily Nation.
You have the Daily Nation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what magic did you do?
The ones we lost. 60 is the number. That's the front page of the Daily Nation with the names down there. 1 year on, family is still crying for justice after protest deaths. For many, that moment has frozen in time. A day that redefined protest, exposed state brutality, and left many unanswered questions. More than 60 lives were lost in chaos that engulfed different cities and towns. And go to the inside pages. The house was breached. The story about Parliament and what exactly happened on that day. The unprecedented and daring move by young protesters to storm Parliament on June 25th over the finance bill has fundamentally changed how the August House conducts its business. So that's a story in there. This is Ruto again. You have my full support. Ruto tells police on protests. And I have some views on that, but anyway,
we'll look into that story in a few, won't we?
Time. Another story here: police will do their work within the law, IG Kanja says, and that's basically a promise for today.
Yeah, so here we also have anxiety in key cities over Gen Z demos. That is expectations that maybe there would be violence. That's on the People Daily. And how the 2024 youth protest have pushed ODM to the edge. And we also have questions here that are being asked on the use of fears of fresh chaos and anxiety as Kenya marks June 25 protest. So that and many other stories that you continue to look into on the dailies today.
Okay. Okay, do you want to share that story? Let's talk about this Ruto story and how he's proud of police.
So the president yesterday met the police at State House. There was an event there at State House, and the president was hosting the FKF Premier League champions, the Kenya Police FC.
Okay.
And the president said he was very proud of the police for their role in securing the country and protecting property. Well, the undertones were not necessarily about sports and the football and how they've won. Of course, the whole conversation was going to turn around what's going to be happening today.
Yeah.
And so President William Ruto declared his unwavering support for police officers, even as Kenyans mark the first anniversary of last year's anti-finance bill protests. The president's comments come amid heightened scrutiny of the police, with several officers currently facing murder charges. Among them are 5 officers, including the Central Police Station's officer. We go on with that story. He urged, before we even go to Raila, we just look at what the president was saying. And given that he's the head of state, obviously, and the commander-in-chief, that's what you would expect. He would rally his support definitely to the Kenya Police Service. So nothing really wrong with that from my perspective. I think what the president did was he missed an opportunity yet again. I look at so many things that have been going on around this country and the many opportunities that he's had to actually, for lack of a better word, redeem himself in a way that makes him a father figure. You're more than a president, you're a father of the nation. Your voice needs to be heard. Your voice can calm the temperatures in the country. And as much as he was addressing and talking to the police and saying how proud he was, think of yourself as a father in a house where you have children. You have these one children who, for lack of a better word again, he's constantly bullying the other children, beating them up, doing all kinds of things. What would the father do at that point? You would try to keep this child in check, but at the same time, also focus on these other children who are crying to you.
For sure.
So I feel there was a missed opportunity there from the head of state in saying, look, I acknowledge that there are things that are not going on well, but it's not all police officers. And they've said time and time again on this show that even as when we talk about the police and the brutality, it's not the entire Kenya Police Service that is brutal.
Absolutely.
It's a few rogue police officers who needs to be dealt with, all right? And I feel the president in this case needed to have addressed today's occasion, what the significance of what you're seeing today. The number of deaths, 60 is the number. There's so many that are still unaccounted for anyway. There are those who have disappeared, can't be traced yet. Address yourself to the rest of the country. Read the room, read the mood of the country. I feel he missed an opportunity there to say, hey, look, as the commander-in-chief, as the president, I'm not saying I'm perfect. We need to fix a few things here and there. I am proud of what the officers are doing. The good police officers, what the majority are doing well. We encourage them to continue doing their job. Keep doing what you're doing within the confines of the law. However, to those ones who actually go out there to commit this, because I'll call them crimes, because that's what they are. Address that. And even Raila Odinga, he tried. He urged Kenyans to avoid vilifying police officers, stressing the need to support them in maintaining peace and order. And, well, the ODM party leader was basically reaffirming his commitment to, the right of all Kenyans to assemble and protest peacefully, saying it was enshrined in the Constitution. I think when Baba, at this point when he speaks like this, I'll be very honest, it doesn't carry the same weight as it did several years ago.
Sadly.
It's almost like reading a script that you've just been given. Just read it because you're expected to say something, say something. I was hoping that both of them will actually address the mood of the country, speak as fathers to the country.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've had probably too many months of missed opportunity when it comes to things that could have been done. It's difficult to bring back the dead. It's almost impossible. You can't do that. But there are things that you can do from a place whereby you can let people know that you're thinking about it. But then, unfortunately, when things like this come out, what you've basically told Kenyans without telling them is that those issues that you discuss are really they don't matter to me. And, sometimes you can send a message to somebody without actually using the words that you think the message should be made up of. That when you say that you're proud of what the police service has done, that's an all-encompassing statement, because you didn't take the time to divide that we see that there have been some horrific things that have happened, that you condemn those in totality. When you say that you're proud of the work, anybody who would hear you and would misconceive what you said would say that even those instances where people have died at the hands of police, that you're then proud of those as well. And that's the unfortunate thing here about misconception. So I do agree. I think that there was an opportunity here for you to say, you know what, guys? This is going to happen tomorrow. This happened a year ago. This is where we should be going. And again, there's another opportunity. Opportunity after opportunity has presented itself. And you can't ignore away a problem. You can't assume that it's not there and hope that it'll go away.
Yeah.
This is here. And again, yes, a father figure, president of the nation, probably should have taken a different pivot.
Should have actually read the mood of the country and just for a second address the issues that are being raised, especially with the police, because he was hosting the officers. We say it is a few officers who are tainting the image of the police wrong, the negative way. And it was an opportunity for the president to speak to the police in that event that they were in, tell them, we appreciate what it is you're doing, but the rogue officers within you need to be dealt with. I, as the president, will ensure that justice is given to Kenyans who lost their lives, to the families who have lost their loved ones. We promise that justice will be served.
Will be served.
For the president to just wake up and say, we appreciate the police. Everyone appreciates police when they do good. Even during the Gen Z last week's demonstrations, there's an officer who stood with the people and actually chased back the demonstrators. And everyone online is saying one officer who's doing the right thing, and we celebrate such.
Absolutely.
I think the president does not read the mood and address himself to what matters at the moment. Until when will he miss all these opportunities to just stand and do right?
But I think he's telling you, and this is the thing, I think he's telling you exactly what he thinks.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying about when somebody tells you something without necessarily using the words. He's telling you something, and you should believe him.
You know, it's one thing as the head of state to speak to the country.
Yes.
And it's another thing in this context in State House, what I feel, he was talking to the police officers because the interior CS was there, all these other guys were there. But I felt he was talking as if it's us versus them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for us, I am proud of what you're doing. And keywords here, I'm very proud of the police for their role in securing the country and protecting property. How can you honestly reduce everything else that's going on around the country to these two things? Fine, you know you're speaking to these officers, and they need to hear your voice also. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that. But I just feel there's so many missed opportunities here, and the address was, whatever happens today, it's us versus them. These are young kids who are going out to the streets to commemorate these lives that were lost last year. It's not necessarily defiance. Even if it was defiance, there's a way you can calm the whole thing down and say, look, we acknowledge. When he was interviewed, he acknowledged that indeed, yes, there were lives that were lost, and he was sorry that there were lives that were lost. However, you know, you need to feel the sorry. You need to feel that he feels what the parents are feeling. Every day when you watch the news, there's somebody crying. There's a family crying. I've never seen a time in my 20 years of practicing this, in practicing journalism, where I've seen every day there's a mother crying. Every day there's just somebody crying. There's a family in despair. There's a woman yesterday was crying because the son was abducted. And he was crying and saying, please don't kill my son. Don't kill my son. I mean, if you sit and you're watching all these things, you're reading all these newspapers, you go online. Everything can't just be propaganda.
Come on.
Address yourself then and say, look, come on, we have a problem. Let's fix it together then. Let's see what we can do together. I acknowledge your pain. I feel your pain. And we're going to address these issues. Even say we're going to carry out reform. Just say something, you know, to also address the rest of the country. And
there is also statements that were made yesterday. We urge members of the public to avoid acts that may provoke our officers. You see, also we've received information from some political actors who just months ago were defending the law and order, and that they are now buying machetes and clubs to distribute to young people to cause chaos. That is according to CS Murkomen. And if he...
Yeah, but to cause what? Chaos? And I think that needed to be contextualized.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even then, if you have this information, what have you done?
Have you done about it? Exactly.
To arrest the individuals and take them to court. Because if you have this information speaking from State House, telling the country on what it is you know is not helping the situation, all you need to do is act on that information, take these individuals to to court.
And here we are saying that it has been repeated over and over again that these protests are coming out to remember what happened last year, for parents to come out and continue to mourn their children. You guys, do you realize that 60 people, we're not talking about the people who were in road accidents, we're not talking about the people who died of natural causes, we are saying 60 people died extrajudicially. And that not one of those individuals has justice been brought to them. That mothers are crying over their children who were killed. Fathers are begging for justice. Others have gone to the police and nobody has answered them till today. 60 Kenyans have died and nothing has been done about it. And we want to pussyfoot around issues. We want to brush them off. We want to ignore those as though they don't matter. And that's where the problem is, right there. That there is death, there is loss of life, and we're not addressing the issue. As though if you ignore it, it will go away. It doesn't go away.
Say it's a stubborn stain.
Yeah.
You can't wash it, you can't do
can't.
anything. You know, the sad part of this conversation, and honestly, I wish we could have a different conversation around this, but when I was looking at the statements that were coming from State House, even now besides the president, because he addressed himself to the police, and it almost appeared it's us versus them. I'm proud of you guys, but no mention of anybody else and anything else going on around the country. The CS made these statements as well. And he argued that Kenya police operate in one of the most challenging legal and political environments. And he said in some countries, like the UK or the US, someone merely tweeting that they will march to 10 Downing Street or the White House would be picked from their house and charged.
Please underline.
Yet in Kenya, people can threaten to invade parliament, the judiciary, even State House, and face no consequences.
Face no consequences. They died.
They died.
Yeah.
Is that not a consequence?
I mean, the undertones in these statements. Then later he says, okay, as government, we're open to meeting families who have lost loved ones. The earlier statement overshadows your intentions. You know, and I keep saying there are missed opportunities here. Because when you're using that example, that somebody just tweeting you'll be picked and this and da, what message are you sending? Okay. Then we go to the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja. He also issued a warning to protesters, reminding them not to access protected areas during today's demonstrations. Unauthorized persons must refrain from accessing protected areas under the Protected Areas Act. He said in a statement, that is okay. That is okay. We all understand the reason why that is important to say. Again, address yourself to everything else while you're making these kind of statements. It's almost like you're so high-handed, you're so guarded, and every statement you're making is just guarding yourself. Make sure you don't come to restricted areas. Make sure you don't do this. There's a way you can communicate the same thing and still have something effective at the end of the day. To all officers deployed today, you have our full support as you carry out your duties. We also urge members of the public to avoid acts that may provoke our officers in the course of their work. It is okay, it is fine. But again, all these statements, they point to one thing.
Yes.
Embolden the police officers, warn the protesters, and the conversation ends there.
Do you know what it tells me? That there's no regard whatsoever for what people will be coming out to protest today. That it's like a crumb on the table that you need to brush off and then pay attention to other things. But that you're going to employ your broom and your rag to move the crumbs off the table, because that's what needs to happen. Fagia, that's what needs to happen. But you're not paying attention to what got the crumb on the table in the first place. It doesn't matter to you. That's not the mess that you need to clean up. You don't bother with that. It's subliminal, but it is there. The messaging is very clear.
Because one would have expected that a statement from the president, the CS, or even the IG would have said police are there to maintain law and order, to act within the law, and the protesters who are there, we have assured you of security. We will be in places X, B, and C to hear you out, receive your petitions, and act on them accordingly. To the goons who will come along, the police will be there to deal with you. That is a statement that anyone would be happy to listen to. But here, it is us versus you. Kujeni, tutakutana uwanja, come prepared, we will be prepared.
And you also look at yesterday and the day before,
Yeah.
actually, on Facebook and also on X, there were messages that were coming from this quote-unquote digital propagandists.
Yeah.
And I was looking at messages that were coming. They were talking about death. They were talking about, I stand with the police. There are posters doing rounds and all that. And that's okay. But we're forgetting one thing. We're making this thing us versus them.
And it's
We're looking at the young people who died here, okay? There are young people who died here. There are families that are still crying. We keep repeating the same thing. And let's look at why were they going to the streets?
Yeah.
You know? Why are they still fighting for justice? Why are we still talking about over 60 confirmed dead, hundreds that have been injured, dozens have disappeared, and still there is no single police officer who has been held to account? We have 1 or 2 or 3 cases, but we are still not seeing results of all these things. Tell you what, I want to turn this thing around.
Yeah.
So if you're planning to go to the streets today, because you've been warned, the thing is, I did some training in Turkey, how to manage protest, and this was the Turkish police that were training us. So when you go into the street, you're a good person. You're going there to protest. You're going there to also stay, go with their families. The mothers who are also going who've lost their children. If you're that good protester who's going generally to just stand with his families and everyone else who's going to the streets, there are a couple of things that you need to pay attention to.
Oh.
Number one, safety first. How you're going to protect yourself. Avoid flashy clothes or things that stand out. Wear solid shoes. Lydia is already, you said she's already
Lydia's
wearing
ready.
Yeah, sneakers. Good to go.
Wear running shoes or boots for easy movement. Now, for protective gear, if possible, carry a scarf or a face mask. 1 or 2 or 3. Now, no jewelry or loose accessories that can be grabbed. Don't go with chains, with bangles, with all these things.
Bling bling acha.
Then in terms of staying connected, fully charge your phone or carry a power bank if you need. Now, there is something about the phone. Again, turn off the face and fingerprint and lock. It's always advisable when you're going to the streets to do
Okay.
that. And I'll tell you why. Just use a password in case something happens to you. Somebody can easily access your phone and do all manner
Anything.
of things.
Yeah.
So, share your live location. You can also share your live location with someone you trust who is not at the protest, so that in the event you are in a place where people can't trace you and you still have your phone, people can still go to where you are. So it's important to share your live location. Then stick together. Join with a group, never protest alone. Agree to work with groups these are people that you know. Watch for people who are urging violence or destruction. There might be goons to incite chaos. Don't follow crowds blindly. Always know your exit route. Now, lastly, there's something I read last night, which I hope is not true or it's not going to happen, where somebody was warning people not to just drink bottled water from anyone.
Yeah.
Carry your own water, carry your own snacks, protein bars and all that. Just don't eat anything from anyone, because there are people out there who are not going to be looking out for you. Evil people, let me put it that way.
Yes.
And that's what we should be looking at. Good way to come to the top of the hour. We have Reverend Tom in the hot seat when we come back from this. What to remember today, and we pray for the best. Good morning at 7 a.m.